And this is the Welsh team, and you were in it.
Yes, that's right, and a number of players making their debut as well. I think Paul Price made his debut, and David Giles, and in the second half, Keith Ponting came on and was making his debut as well. And obviously it was Mike England's first game in charge of Wales. Familiar names there now, Joey Jones at left back, Peter Nicholas, who's now part manager of Crystal Palace, and David Giles, as you mentioned, Kevin Keegan lookalike, and people thought he was the second Kevin Keegan because the way that he played, small, you know, played up front, scored goals.
And Bobby, the England side with squad numbers, by the way.
Yes, I don't understand why. Probably it was just for this competition, but it was the norm now in any major competition. You had to have squad numbers. We had the first time. Ray Clements, Phil Neal, Phil Thompson there from Liverpool, maybe even Larry Lloyd from Liverpool as well, I think. In midfield, two really creative players, Glenn Hoddle and Trevor Brooking. Up front, Paul Mariner, good in the air, and for width, Steve Coppell and Peter Barnes. Strong England side.
So, May 1980 then, the very month the SAS stormed the Iranian embassy, and later that year, tragically and stupidly, John Lennon was shot dead in New York. We're off to Wrexham, and picking up the commentary is Barry Davis.
The referee this afternoon is Scotsman Ian Foote from Glasgow, and his linesmen are Alan Ferguson and Peter Hanley. It's really a delightful afternoon, although once again, as last Saturday, it's going to be very warm for the players. And England lining up in midfield with Coppell nearest us, then Hoddle, then Brooking, and then Kennedy. Pitch looking really in marvellous nick, in spite of the lack of water. Ray Clements, the England goalkeeper, made his debut against Wales back in November '72. Paul Mariner and David Jones. This is Brian Flynn. You'll have noticed, incidentally, from the captions that the players are wearing squad numbers. Lloyd. Mariner. Brian Flynn. Nicely forward to Giles. Walsh is in the middle. Thomas is arriving. And uncomprehensively, or rather comprehensively, brought down by Larry Lloyd. Really very sharp challenge by the New England number 5. Yorath and Giles in conversation, 4 players on the far post. James making an early run, there he is! Played a bit short, and he seemed to go in there with a very casual air, but got quite a lot of power on the header, but well wide. Price backing off as Nicholas takes it. Only to Barnes. Coppell making an angled run into the middle. Hoddle is on the far post, unmarked at the moment. Here's Hoddle! Just couldn't pull it back. But,
well, obviously a packed house at the racecourse ground, 25,000, and they're up on the roofs, I think, too. They wouldn't be allowed now, of course, Brian.
No, it's nice to see a full racecourse being there now, obviously.
And the atmosphere at that time must have been electric.
Yeah, it was great. You can hear the crowd. There seems to be a different atmosphere there. You know, it's one of them grounds, the racecourse, where it holds the atmosphere in. The sound is good, the acoustics are good, and yeah, it's a good place to play.
And Mike England's first match as manager?
Yeah, his very first match in charge of Wales. I think he'd been in America, he'd played out in America and lived over there for about 7 or 8 years and came back and got the Welsh job. He was sort of a surprise choice, really, in some people's eyes, but came and did really well.
It bounced kindly for him, but look at Walsh's position compared with James's. Welsh looking for offside, but they weren't really together, moving up. Ray Kennedy, but the whistle has gone for a bit of pulling by Brian Flynn, I think. Larry Lloyd has joined the players on the far post, or in line of the far post. And it was Mariner who tried to go for it, and a corner came off David Jones. Brooking has gone to take the corner. Lloyd has remained up on the near post. Mariner just behind him. Change of angle by playing it back to Cherry. And he's worked space for himself well. And there's Lloyd, and Davis had it, lost it, and Barnes, he had the thump, and Mariner got the last touch.
Well, England had taken the early advantage, but not a cleanly taken goal by any means.
No, it was a bit scrappy, wasn't it? I think Peter Barnes had a swing at it, blocked on the line, and I think Paul Mariner, as a striker would, you know, just looking to pick up the bits. Out it comes, Peter Barnes has a swing at it. It actually hits Paul Mariner. And then he just makes sure by just heading it over the line.
So it was a header after all that?
Yeah, it was a header, yeah.
You anticipated it might be.
That was from 6 inches, wasn't it? But that's a good start for England, you know, coming here. I think it's not a hostile environment here, but I mean, obviously the Welsh will be disappointed with this.
And a setback, Brian, you must have felt that at that point.
Yes, we'd been playing fairly well up to this point, and it was, I would say, I'm slightly biased, but it was slightly against the run and play when they got the goal, and as Bobby said, it was a little bit fortunate.
Brian Flynn. Only Walsh left side of him. And now Walsh moving left of the penalty spot, being watched by Phil Thompson, but here is Walsh, and put in by Mickey Thomas. Well, they were watching Walsh, but they didn't mark him. And Mickey Thomas...
So that restored things then, Brian?
Yeah, I mean, it was important that we responded fairly quickly, and I think it was within 3 or 4 minutes where we got a goal. The ball was out wide with Leighton, and he's naturally right-footed, but he cut back on his left foot and put a good deep cross in. Ian Walsh, I think it was, who made the initial challenge. Again, who's not the tallest, but is particularly good in the air. And Mickey, like a good midfield player, arrives in the box unmarked and finishes it from 6 or 7 yards. You know, a good move, good build-up, a good response.
2 men going for the same ball, though, from England's point of view, you know, which wouldn't please the manager very much, I would have thought.
Obviously playing at left back, with Trevor Cherry now moving to right back, and it's Phil Neal who's gone off. There's Sansom. His 5th cap, and he had a fine game against Argentina. James, Flynn, James making the run out to the right, Giles in the middle, so is Edwards, and Walsh, and Walsh puts it in. Ian Walsh again moving away from the cover. What a really good goal.
Tell us about Ian Walsh. We don't remember him too well, Brian.
Yes, I think he started as a young lad down at Crystal Palace. He's from down South Wales, and did particularly well. He weren't the biggest, but he's very good in the air. He was good at challenging in the air. I mean, that situation there is perfect for us, because you've got Larry Lloyd in the left-back position, marking them, probably one of the best wingers at the time, Leighton James, and he's just teased him in and put a great cross into the far post, inviting Walsh to score. I mean, it was a good goal.
Yeah, Leighton James's contribution there was enormous. He went and found space on the right-hand side of the field, but then when he was confronted with Larry Lloyd, actually did what all defenders don't like. He got to the dead ball line. And once he got over there, that's not it finished, because then you have the skill of actually chipping the ball, getting it up quickly, so that you have to carry the goalkeeper. And he did everything perfectly well, Leighton James. And I mean, it was a doddle for the lad to come in and just score, but the work had been done by James.
And finally, the shot was by Nicholas. And Ray Clements couldn't have had a very clear view of that, but got his body behind it. And it was his body that stopped it initially, I suspect. Again, it was James's cross. Players got up in the middle, came down to a first-time shot. Well, he did, in fact, get his hands, but he needed a knee as well. And here's Trevor Brooking, and here's Peter Barnes curling away. Wanted it to come back the other way. But it's got a deflection at the moment that it was struck. And so it's a corner. Played through by Koppel to Brooking. As the man came to Brooking, he immediately played it square, and Barnes' shot got the nick for the corner. It's Koppel who's gone across to take it, and Lloyd has come up for it. And taken comfortably by Davis, an infringement anyway. Free kick given against Phil Thompson. Kennedy. It's been fairly quiet, Ray Kennedy. And the Welsh have covered very well on the flanks. Ray Wilkins on the right, David Johnson on the left, who scored 5 goals in his 5 England appearances. Kevin Rees between the two. England's performance in this first half, as the whistle goes for a free kick against Wales. Leighton James goes to retrieve the ball. England's performance a little bit reminiscent of the game in Sweden, when Ron Greenwood made a lot of changes. Only 5 players started this match, who started the match on Tuesday against Argentina, and one of those, Neil, has had to go off because of injury. I think England playing in Sweden after winning in Bulgaria were somewhat below par, as they have been in this first half, which ends with the Welsh leading by 2-1. Mariner having scored the first goal for England. And the equaliser coming from Mickey Thomas, who did well to keep a bouncing ball down. After some more good work by Leighton James, who gave the Welsh the lead, which they keep to half-time on a ground where England have only once lost, and that was back in 1882. For only the second time since Ron Greenwood took over, England start a second half on the wrong end of the score. This is 26th match, and he hasn't been beaten in any of the home internationals since he's been in charge. There's Phil Thompson, the England skipper. And I suppose really it goes without saying that England have missed the experience of players like Kevin Keegan and Tony Woodcock, and also the general sort of teamwork that has been so much part and parcel of the English performance in recent games. When you make changes, you're bound to use a certain amount of that. Here's Di Davis. And the Welsh have made a substitution for the second half, bringing on Keith Pontin in place of the injured David Jones. And Barnes this time going at them. Brooking. And here's Hoddle. 4 England players in the box. And Hoddle setting himself. But it's side netting. Just a few people in the crowd wondered for a moment, as Hoddle came to his left, naturally two-footed. The sway created the space, but his shot was wide of the keeper and just into the side netting. Cherry. And England beginning to put things together. Koppel. Getting back to the manner in which they started the match, which was certainly confident enough. Ray Kennedy didn't run too kindly for him. And Jones trying to find Davis, and Koppel, in an effort to intercept, had no chance of controlling the ball. It's a goal kick. but it was a poor back pass from a player who hadn't looked. Barnes and Jerry Jones putting it down the tunnel.
Bobby, have England had a telling off at half-time, do you think?
I think, to say the least, that's what they've had. Yeah, they're a bit more aggressive now. They're competing. There's a couple of they've had a couple of chances here when, if they'd have scored, you know, then the game might have been completely different. But the Welsh, you know, reasonably solid in defence. The goalkeeper's done quite well for them, made really one good save. But they're just, their attitude seems to have just altered a little bit now. You know, they're all keen and want to win the match.
Were you conscious at that point, Brian, in the game, that England had actually come out and had, you know, obviously been told, get their fingers out?
Yes, you know, you give respect to Ron Greenwood, you know, a manager of that experience. We were saying at half-time, they're going to come out a different team, you know, because they're not going to play like that again. They're going to change one or two things, possibly tactically. But if you notice, one of the things I've noticed early on in the game, how many tackles they started to win. You know, and sometimes that can influence the course of the game. You know, they weren't giving us time, which, you know, we were doing to them in the first half. And it's now a good competitive game.
But they've not got a reward for it.
Taken quickly by Brooking.
Need a goal, don't they?
Yeah.
Barnes, Cherry, was a mishit really. Mariner blocked on the deck by Price. Comes out to Hoddle, who makes room for himself and tries the chip. Would have been lovely had he succeeded in terms of quality of football. But when all the bodies were flying around, look at the control of this Tottenham player. Mariner in the battle. It's Price who's on the deck. But as it comes out, his control creates a bit of space for him, but he overhits the chip. Lloyd, down to Ray Kennedy. A bit too long. Cherry. And the free kick has been given. Well, Leighton James gets up smiling. I think the first challenge by Cherry might well have been a free kick, but I think that James just bounced of his own volition off Brooking. Pontin. Hoddle. We've had an hour of the match and the Welsh lead by 2-1. And here is Leighton James on the break. Walsh up with him. Giles arriving square, and James gets the shot, a good save, and it's going in! And the Welsh take a 3-1 lead after a spell in which England seemed to be getting on top.
Leighton James, a really fine player, wasn't he?
No, he was a fine player. He was a wide player. He could use both feet. He had pace. I think he was taught well when he initially went to Burnley. I think Jimmy Adamson, people like that, you know, they taught him the correct way to play his position, and he was a good player. But he also scored goals. He did get goals. I think he was a bit fortunate that this one came directly back to him, you know, and they were able to score. But nevertheless, he was a dangerous player to play against.
And, of course, you were roommates with the Welsh team.
Yes, we roomed together for 7 or 8 years, me and Leighton. And I mean, if you notice just at the start of that move, the awareness of playing the ball behind the defence, and he ran onto it himself. Again, naturally, you know, could use both of his feet, left and right. And left with one-on-one on Larry Lloyd on our left side this time, and yeah, as I say, he got a little bit lucky with his first shot was well saved, and the rebound, there was a lot of bodies there, and he got his head to it first.
Ron Greenwood's team only beaten twice during his reign, but in severe danger of a third defeat and his first in the home international championships. And so far, the home international tournament being turned upside down with a victory last night for Northern Ireland over Scotland, and every promise of a victory here for Wales over England. And here's Giles. Didn't run too kindly for him. Well, again, one has to recall the comment at lunchtime of Mike England that his players would have a bit too much pace for the England defence. greater sharpness in midfield. And England have gone back to the form of the latter part of the first half. Good decision by the referee to allow play to continue. This is Giles, and he's going an own goal by Phil Thompson. Own goal by Phil Thompson, there's no doubt about that. And Ray Clements...
Playing the advantage, and a very valuable advantage there then, Brian.
Yes, very much so. It was a bit of a mix-up, but I think there's one or two sloppy passes made by England, and Dave's gone through. And he looks as if he's tired in there, and he's just really swung it across and took a wicked deflection off Phil Thompson. And Ray Clements is committed to the cross. I think he meant to cross it, really. But we'll accept that any time.
Painful to watch, Bobby.
Well, can you imagine being in Wrexham and you're beating England by 4 goals to 1? I mean, I can't remember England ever losing hardly 4 goals, you know. And I mean, they're not be pleased with this. They had the opportunity. They've got a little bit slap happy and they paid the price. A little bit fortunate the 2 goals that Welsh have scored, the way that they've gone into the back of the net. But nevertheless, you know, the tails up. They'll be loving it. Yeah, he's been on a long run, and I think he was a bit tired there, and he just wanted to get rid of it to someone else. And he looked across, but he hadn't actually crossed it to anyone because there was no one there. But luckily enough, you know, got a little deflection off.
But
Phil
they're well
Thompson.
worth their 4-1 lead at the moment.
Well, they're worth the lead. They're being the more aggressive and they're being the better side. 4's maybe a little bit flattering, but nevertheless, you know, they deserve to be in front.
In the one chance that he's got to gain a place in the squad for Italy. You can probably hear from the crowd, they're singing Land of My Fathers. Leighton James again, but he's overhit the cross. Really needed the look up. Sansom. Sansom. Thompson. Sansom. Kennedy. And put out by Leighton James under no special pressure. There's 15 minutes left, and Wales leading England by 4 goals to 1. Needing only 1 more goal to equal the highest ever tally against England. Mariner up, and it's just wide by Larry Lloyd. It's Lloyd's header, just over the angle. Welsh scored 4 when they beat England at Cardiff in 1938, 4-2. That best tally was way back in 1882, the only time England have lost on this ground, when the score was 5-3. Kennedy. Sansom outside. Long cross for Mariner. It's Larry Lloyd who's done, as away comes Mickey Thomas, who was held, and the free kick has been given. And the referee calling for Fred Street to come on and attend to Larry Lloyd. Ray Wilkins on the touchline. The linesman, Alan Ferguson, checking the number of Ray Wilkins, as Larry Lloyd still checks the ankle. An afternoon that began for him with such hopes has proved for him to be such a disappointment. Ray Wilkins, who himself is still suffering from a groin strain. He's had a few weeks now, missed the close of the season for Manchester United, although playing well against Argentina. And Ron Greenwood down to talk to his injured deputy centre-half. And on comes Ray Wilkins with 10 minutes to play. Wilkins at the back, and the shot came from Leighton James, was well wide. Ron Greenwood and Jeff Hurst have now come down to the England bench, but they must be aware that this is now a lost cause. Mike England down as well, aware that he's won his first match. Kenny Sansom. Comes Sansom. Brooking. Barnes on the far post. Joey Jones covering him at the expense of the corner. Headed the wrong way and then headed out by Keith Pontin in also a rather surprising manner. Brooking, England looking for what would only be another consolation. Wilkins trying to go through, and he was tripped by Peter Nicholas as the referee tried to get himself out of the way. Here's Hoddle. Oh! Supremely well struck, but the wrong side of the post from the referee's viewpoint. This is to be the last clearance. Giles and Sansom. Nicholas. And the crowd rise as Mike England rises. And what for him will be an afternoon he'll never forget. His start to being manager of Wales. Congratulated by the England players, the England manager and his assistants. And Wales have inflicted upon England their greatest margin of defeat since May the 30th, 1964, when England were beaten 5-1 by Brazil in Rio.